So hello everyone. My name is Sarah Magie, and I am a candidate for ordained ministry from East Central Ontario region. I'm a lifelong member in the United Church of Canada. Many of you will recognize my name. Both my parents are ministers in the United Church in Eastern Ontario. And I'm also, as you can probably tell from how I'm dressed, a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, and I'm heading into full-time chaplaincy with the regular forces in the CAF. And I'm very happy to talk to you today about the theme of this year's regional gathering. And I was asked to reflect on this question of what does being in a covenant relationship mean to me personally and to my future ministry. And for me, it's such a great question. I love it because covenants are about how we live in relationship with one another. And really that's what being in Christian ministry is all about. It's about being in relationship with each other and creating connections. And how we do that is what covenant is. Covenant brings boundaries and the commitments we make to one another, and it's really the lens through which we live our lives in relationship with each other. I like to use the example when I talk about covenants about the covenant of marriage, because I wouldn't, for example, go and make a huge life decision, say buying a $20,000 car or something like that, without talking to my husband, because he might get kind of upset with me if I did that. And the reason for that is that I live my life through the lens of that covenant relationship that I have with my husband. We entered into the covenant of marriage. And so I live my life through that lens. Marriage vows are what gives life to that. I think John Piper was the one that said, a ministry without covenant is like a marriage without vows. And while the Bible doesn't explicitly say, like thou shalt have a covenant any more than it says that we have to have marriage licenses or wedding rings or anything like that, covenant follows necessarily from the nature of our relationships with each other. And so there's tons of biblical examples of how we're supposed to live in relationship with one another. I think of 1 Corinthians 13, where it says love is, and the biblical definition of love, right? Love is patient, love is kind, does not envy or boast. And I always say it's a good exercise if we take out the words love is and insert the words I am, and we find out how we're doing with our covenants with each other. I am patient and I am kind. I think of the fruits of the Spirit from 5 Galatians, where we're supposed to be emanating those fruits in our lives and showing joy and love and peace and patience and kindness and gentleness and self-control with each other. The interesting thing I find about our ministry experience in this wonderful new covenant that we talk about in the New Testament is that in the Old Testament we had these rules, right, that kind of set the bar. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet, things like that, that kind of set the bar way down low and said, this is the bar below which you shall not go. But in the new covenant, Jesus came along and set the bar so high, it's almost impossible for us to attain it, right? If you try and go back to that 1 Corinthians 13 again, I'm not always patient and I'm not always kind when I know I should be. And so sin is really what happens when we violate our covenants, which we're going to do just from the nature of being human. But the good news is that, yes, by nature of being our human fleshy selves, we're going to get it wrong. But as much as I can't, Jesus can. And so I'm going to face some impossible situations in the ministry that I'm called to serve, in the service that I'm joining in the Canadian Armed Forces. It's a much bigger organization than just what I'm capable of doing and serving on my own and on my own strength. And I'm going to get it wrong, no matter how hard I try. But the really beautiful thing is that there's grace in Jesus Christ. There's forgiveness. I think of 1 John chapter 1 verse 9, I think, where it says that if we confess our sins to God, if we confess those places where we've broken our covenants, we can trust God. We can trust God to forgive us and to take away our sins and those broken pieces, and we can patch our covenants back together. And so that's really what being in a covenant relationship means to me, and what I hope it will bring to my future in ministry. And I can just thank God for all of that. So thank you for listening, and blessings.